Welcome back to Lit versus Genre, everybody. I am Steve,
And I am Jeff.
and we are up to episode 3
We
of The
are
Moon Knight. Jeff, what did you
Moon.
think of this
Steve,
one?
Steve, I want you to answer a question for me because I feel like you'll know. Why do TV shows often change writers with each episode?
Well, because it's an intense production schedule, and one
Mm-hmm.
person isn't going to be able to write the whole thing.
Okay.
But I mean, my impression has always been I'm
Mhm.
not at all an expert, but that there's a writer's room
Right.
so that story beats and kind of larger things that are going to happen are
Hmm.
planned out, in collaboration. And then it's
Hmm.
one person's job to kind of go off and actually screenplay it, or two people, depending on how they
Hmm.
break it up. And then
Sure,
that
sure.
ends up who gets the credit for it. But even things with screenplays, I've heard
Hmm.
showrunner ultimately will change things, do
Right.
another pass or something like that on one if that's the case.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious because I've noticed recently as I've watched TV shows in the last, I don't know, 6 months to years, I've become more knowledgeable about this. Like I never used to track who was directing something or who was writing something. But whenever I watch an episode I don't like of a show, I go and look, and invariably it's because it's written by somebody who's new. And I say new loosely because I do understand you about the writer room and stuff. And the intense schedule does make sense. But to me, it also seems hard to have all those balls in the air and coordinate it if you're passing that ball off, every episode. I don't know. But my reactions, as you can probably already
I'm
guess,
intuiting you did not like this one. You did not enjoy this one.
let me begin with what I did like. So I'll do the classic shit sandwich, right? I liked two major things, I would say. One was that they flipped the comedy of the action, right? And what I
Hmm.
mean by that
Yeah.
is in episode one, we loved it, right? Where it's the goofy guy, and then it would cut. He's like murdered everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then in this one, it's the Mark Spector. I am Jason Bourne, whatever. And then it would cut, like people are free, and he's taking a taxi to the
Yeah.
airport, right? So love that. I was like, oh, what a clever way to take what you've done before and spin it in a way that makes sense. Because of course, Stephen, right, Stephen Grant, would let the people go and be like,
Hmm.
I need to get out of here. So I really liked that. I've got one other thing that I liked, but if you want to talk about that one at all first, we certainly could.
Oh, no, no, I agree.
Mm,
I think that
mm,
was clever to flip
yeah.
it. It also kind of makes me wonder if some of the other flips
Mm,
actually in episode 1 were not the
mm,
way we thought they were, because it seems
mm.
like personality 3 is maybe even more
Yeah.
violent, or maybe even
Hmm.
just straight bad or something. And this is one thing, it's like a thing that I really
Hmm.
like, and I think that's a complaint now, is that I want a personality 3. I keep waiting for, I'm like, oh, now we're gonna get personality 3. No, not yet. Or
Yeah.
now we're gonna
Mm,
get him. Not yet. And then when he was kind of passed
mm,
out at the end on the sand, I thought the closing
mm.
beat was gonna be the third personality wakes up or something, But I
Right.
mean, that's just me.
Right.
I just want the third personality. I have no patience. I cannot wait for it.
Dude, I'm so with you. I've been saying from the beginning, one of the things I love so much is the multiple personalities, and I want more
Mm.
personalities. So I really also did like in this one associated with the action of them both being like, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. And
Yeah.
it's like, whoa. So yeah, no, I completely loved that. And I'm with you. I wish they had, I mean, it's tricky, right? Because I do understand if you want to tease the personality in an episode and then reveal it the next episode, right? And this did feel like a good episode to tease it because it's more a Mark Spector episode and we're getting more action. So I get why they didn't reveal it. I just wish there had been personally more to this episode, and that's something that would have done more to me is that reveal of the third. So I understand why they didn't do it. I just the episode was not amazing to me, and I would have loved to get the third one. So anyway, um,
I gotta say,
mm,
man, I still had a lot
mm,
of fun this episode. I don't know what would I
yeah,
say it's the weakest of the three. I would say perhaps, but not
yeah.
by a lot. I mean, I think The
Mm,
humor was still there. I
yeah.
think they're like putting I'm kind of surprised you didn't like this one as much because they're really putting the pedal to the metal of the magic stuff. That it's getting like more magical than I thought it was going to be. Like in the
Yeah.
beginning, those opening scenes, I was like, oh, I like this Indiana Jones vibe. Whenever we're doing archaeology in the desert, I'm like,
Oh, I'm all
okay,
about that. Yeah.
I'm feeling it. And then they
Hmm.
kind of cut away from that and don't really go into that more. But you go
Yeah.
into the Great Pyramid. You have all the
Hmm.
like different avatars and like
Hmm.
again. I'm just so impressed by the comedy of this show. I think the comedy of this
Yeah.
show is so good and it's always in character. It's like they find ways
Mm.
to do the ridiculous, silly
Yeah.
comedy, but make you buy it. And
Hmm.
also, just kind of like in this episode, when this made me feel sorry for Khonshu this episode, which also I thought was like amazing. Like when he's
Yeah.
kind of this petulant brat, right? That like none
Right.
of the other gods like, and you get like
Hmm.
why they don't like him and why
Hmm.
he's so annoying. And just like that bit
Right.
that Oscar Isaac did where like all the others kind of just talk through their humans perfectly normally, but like
Hmm.
his is like
Yeah.
clearly taking over and ridiculous, and it was so
Yeah.
funny, and Oscar Isaac did such a funny bit with it, but it was
He
also
did.
like, oh my
He did.
god, this is like character revealing. This is
Hmm.
kind of making me like like Khonshu at the same time, like
Mm.
through a flaw, really, right? Like you're like
Yeah.
Khonshu's really
Yeah.
flawed. Khonshu like really does suck, but
Right.
you kind of feel for him there that like nobody's listening to him and he's on his high horse and like I
Yeah, and it
thought it was
feels
great.
like, yeah, no, I did like his complaint about, you abandon humanity, basically, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's still trying to do something. Um, and I would agree with you. I thought Oscar Isaac killed Khonshu, like just
Yeah, the
shouting out of
jerk.
him, right?
Yeah.
Especially the very first one, because he's like, you could just see in his eyes, he's like, what is happening?
Surprise.
He's
Yeah.
shouting this
How did
thing.
he do that where his eyes look surprised and the rest of them's going like this? It's
Dude, it
so
was,
good.
I mean, he's amazing. Like, I
Yeah.
am very sold on him as an actor. I think for me, just to be, it's tough to say where to start, but since we're talking about him, I've said before that I really love Stephen Grant, right, as
Mm.
the primary personality. I understand why they want to give us an episode of Mark Spector's primary personality, especially to give us more with the, wife and their relationship, and even Mark Spector's relationship with Khonshu, for sure, for sure. But as a character, he just isn't quite as interesting to me. They had some parts that were intriguing about, him not wanting to hurt the boy, or saying, are we going to dance? Are we going to fight? Stuff like that was fun enough. Um, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to understand more about him as a character, to be more invested as him as a character, because I'm just not. I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me in the same way that Stephen Grant does.
See,
Um,
that's
that was
interesting.
one aspect.
So let me talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
I am kind
yeah.
of like this episode actually like I don't know if I'm on board with it, but I was surprised that
Mm,
how much I cared about this sort of like you
mm,
can almost sneakily see, and this worries me. I can
mm.
almost sneakily see what the lesson is or what the arc is going to be, and I don't want there to be a lesson. I don't want there to be an arc.
Definitely need a lesson.
No,
We need those themes, bro.
please,
We need
please,
those
no theme.
themes.
Please leave your themes at the door. But like, I was kind of invested in this idea that like,
Mm,
okay, his main thing is that he can't talk about, and maybe even where all the personalities come from is that he
mm,
can't talk to his wife about
mm.
what's
Sure.
going on. He can't talk about what's in himself. And
Mm,
so, like, that little bit on the boat, I was like, okay,
yeah.
yeah, I kind of like that. And then they back it up
Mm,
with,
yeah. With
kind of
Harrow. Yeah.
cleverly,
Mm.
in that opening scene with the wife. Here,
Oh, okay.
let me
Okay.
just say this, Jeff. I don't
Mm,
know. This episode gave me everything I want. It was like
mm,
here's the Steve
mm.
checklist. We know these are the things that Steve Snyder wants, so we're
Yeah.
gonna put them in there. We got more of like the inner space,
relationship.
yeah, love triangle going
Mm.
on where she likes the dorky one now, maybe kind of more than like
Yeah,
the
it
real
did seem
one.
that way a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, I totally think that look was there. That actress was like
I mean,
super
yeah,
selling it.
she did when she like crept around. I don't know. That scene was just so ridiculous to me. It was tough for me to appreciate her performance. But
Wait,
yeah,
so you mean the night sky scene?
yeah,
You didn't like that?
yeah.
I think it's my
Um,
favorite
yeah.
part of the
I mean,
whole
I
series
I
so
like
far.
I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. Like the idea of them
Okay.
spinning back the sky. All that
Yeah.
was cool for sure, for sure, for
Hmm.
sure. What I didn't like was the dude, Mark Spector, ripping off the mirror, walking like 10 feet away to go sit on the ground, as opposed to just doing it on the Jeep where it was all
Oh,
set. It
so
just felt
I
like
think that's
completely
again like
meaningless.
I'm having a.
Yeah.
I can't do this in front of you. I
Yeah,
can't
I
do this. I
guess.
need to like kind of
Have
be in my
space.
own self here and
Yeah.
take that off and bring that over, and then there's
I mean,
plenty of light around here because of this truck. So to
I
me,
guess
like
he had
it
said like
did
leave me
something
alone,
character.
or
Yeah,
I guess
this
I
is
don't
a
know.
big of me letting go, which I don't want to do, which neither of them want to let go of the
Yeah,
body, and maybe I'm letting go of the
sure.
body personally. So I felt
Mhm.
that like, yeah, I mean, I guess like reasonably logically, there's no reason to do it, but I thought there was like a
Mhm.
character reason that I felt it when he did it.
Yeah, I guess it just struck me to say like I mean again I get your reasoning, and I see how it could work. It was just the way they filmed it and it didn't play to me. This is my personal take. And so that was most of the episode to me. Most of the episode just didn't make sense, and so it was tough for me to appreciate the other parts. Like if this was the only episode of the show I watched, I don't know if I'd really watch more of
Hmm.
it. It was pretty weak for me in that regard. But again, personal taste. And plot stuff. The magic was cool, but the Pantheon was just kind of a big letdown to me. They're just there to, not do anything. We don't really learn anything cool about the different ones. Of course, there's the one who's like, we've been friends before, so I'm going to give you a piece of information that makes no sense. So there's just like so many plot problems with this episode. It was just tough for me to enjoy other aspects.
Yeah,
But
you care
again,
about plot too
maybe
much, bro. Come over to the Steve Snyder.
I
What Steve Snyder
mean,
cares
no,
about, and you will enjoy
no,
television
no,
so much more.
no,
Because
absolutely
it
not.
gave me one thing I was
Absolutely
worried
not.
about was we would not get as much Steven. I think all the
Sure,
like
we didn't.
silly plot
Mm.
scaffolding is there just to keep Steven in the show. Like I was like, how are we keeping
Uh,
Steven in the show? And they're like, oh, we'll throw all
yeah.
this Egyptian shit that like we need to like figure out and know about all these MacGuffins of that, like an additional
Yeah,
MacGuffin in order to be like, oh, well, we have to let Steven out and I
I
have to
I think that
negotiate
could
with
have
Steven.
worked. Yeah,
Oh, they
I
did
think that
it.
could have
They did
worked.
a good bit.
Eh,
And I
I mean,
enjoyed
yeah, I
it.
mean, it was just
Um, I liked all of it.
yeah,
I thought the Pantheon was fun.
sure.
I don't know if I need to learn about each of them. I like the
Okay.
idea though of the like guy that we're
Mhm.
on Khonshu's side basically, and just
Yeah.
to be like, oh, I have to deal with this bureaucracy that
Mhm.
like is gonna shut me down, this like stupid government bureaucracy when I'm like the
Right.
one person who knows
Right.
what's really going on, sort of thing. But then
Mm.
also you're like, yeah, why? You're an idiot, you're an asshole, these people
Mm.
clearly don't like you, like why you're making a big scene out of yourself doing this, why would they
Yeah.
come on your side? And I that all felt like very like real to me, like the one crazy
Yeah.
guy who can like solve the problem, and like everybody else is like, what the hell, if it's why would we why
I
would we
hear
do this?
you. I mean, yeah, again, conceptually, if you wrote it, I'd probably like it because
I don't
as a
know about that.
concept, it makes sense, right? Again, just the execution of it didn't work for me. Just from a lot of little points, like we've got a fun line, right? Of I've got a bad idea, right? The Khonshu says, we're like, oh, what's this bad idea going to be? Oh,
Hmm.
it's the exact same idea you just said a few moments ago about alerting the Pantheon. Why do we just do that? Why do you need to change the sky to alert the Pantheon? So that it was a weird setup to get there with the Pantheon. And then sure, he's like shouting and everything. But then how quickly the Pantheon gets back together when he moves the sky around to like turn him to stone, it feels like they're just there to be an obstacle. Like they're not their own characters, they're not their own people. They're only there as a plot device to, be something Khonshu's got to come up against. Because they're not doing any of their own research. They're not keeping an eye on this dude finding Amit's tomb, which by the way, he should have already found because he had the scarab and he was there. But then randomly he's got to go to this other guy's sarcophagus. And then what he does is he destroys it. Like it's just this makes any sense at all. So,
Well, he destroyed it
I'm
because he
getting
knew
plus
that
stuff.
was the only other clue to get to the thing he's already
Well,
found,
but
right?
why is he doing that if he's got Amit's body, right? Like why isn't
Oh,
he
I don't
going and
think
doing
they've
something with Amit's
cut. They
body?
haven't dug it up yet all the way yet. These things
Why
take a
not?
while. These things take a while,
I
Jeff. You
mean,
can't just dig
I
up
mean, I
in a
guess.
day like
I
the
guess.
excavation site
But
for the
he's got
how fast do you think these things go? First of
this
all,
dude's
think
been
about
looking for
like the
Amit
beginning
and
of
he goes
Jurassic Park.
everywhere.
They got to be very careful with their little
I could just think of Indiana
brushes. They
Jones.
don't want
Indiana
to.
Jones. That's
You don't
true.
just go
He's
in
got
there and
brushes.
bulldoze the shit.
Well, no, but I mean, he finds the tomb. He's like, "We're here," and then he goes all over the place.
Well,
He can stay
he's
there.
not gonna dig. I'm with him. I wouldn't be the one digging if I was. I'd be like, you guys good? You're good. I'm
Just
gonna
gonna
go.
pop in here, use some magic fire real quick. What? Like what? None of this. And then what was the weird like jousting that they were doing? I was like, oh, we're gonna see some like cool horse jousting. They just like tap things together. They're
Well,
not
I
doing like any
think
throwing
like,
practice.
well, I think
Like, what are
like
you
that.
doing?
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know. You don't know anything about that actual practice.
I would like to.
That kind of struck me as
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
Perhaps
I
that
figured
like
it
you have to
was.
be
Yeah.
careful. Obviously,
Mhm.
you don't want to like freaking stab somebody when you're practicing. I don't know, your horse
Sure.
jousting. So that seemed like very real to me. That as an
I
exercise,
I
you
like
go
the
like
tapping.
this. Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
want to see them do something else with it.
I mean, that might be all
Um,
they do in real. I
I,
don't know.
I guess. I guess I'm just like, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be cool. And then, oh, but anyway, like I said, it wasn't my episode. But others could have absolutely enjoyed it. Maybe again, people just don't. That's people watch for different reasons. As you
Well,
said,
here
I should
comes the
already hear signs.
condescension
No, 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 no,
incoming,
no. I'm just
everyone. Get
saying.
ready
No,
for
no,
it. Here it
no.
comes.
I'm literally saying.
You plebes, my
No,
legates.
no, no,
But
no. I was
me, from my
literally saying that
knowledgeable plot
if I could
lands.
just come over to not caring about plot, right, then I then then I
I'm
could
not
enjoy it. That's
me,
what you
master of
said.
plot.
That's what you said. Stop caring about plot, and then
Yeah,
TV would be
no,
more enjoyable. Which I
seriously.
do think you're right
I don't
overall.
even
I
think
think I think
here's the
TV in
thing.
general.
Here's the thing. I do
Go for
think
it.
there were times where I'm like, okay, yeah, this setup is felt more television-y to me of them
Sure.
going to that rich dude's place or whatever to get
Hmm.
the random new MacGuffin that we need. And I felt like even the way it was shot, I was like, this looks more like television than it does a
Mm-hmm.
movie. Looks more like a setup for like the old A-Team show or something. I imagine them all going to like the rich dude's house where they're doing
Sure.
jousting and
Sure.
something.
Which I
Um,
like that whole idea. That whole idea is fun to
yeah,
me.
and
Yeah.
here's the thing about it. I was like, this also feels to me very much like old sort of
Bond or
old,
something.
like old school superhero television. Like if I was
Mm,
watching The Incredible Hulk Bill Bixby back in the day, you're sitting there waiting for like
sure.
3/4 of the episode probably for that
Mm,
moment that is coming where his eyes turn green and then like the Hawk appears and there's a big fight. And you're like
right.
every single episode, and that thing ran
Right.
for years, right? Every single
Sure.
episode. And
Sure.
like there is something like very television comforting about that you're like, I know
Well,
exactly what's going to happen here. And that's why
yeah.
I'm here. I'm here to see the exact thing that I know that's going to happen. I am for
Right.
it. And there's like this kind of pleasure in it in a way that like
I
when
agree with
things are
that. Yeah.
predictable in other
Yeah.
mediums, you're like,
Yeah.
nah, that sucks. But
Well, I think if it's pleasant, if it's got to be done well, right? But I watch Castle episodes, for instance, right?
mm,
And it's super formulaic, but the characters are just all so delightful. I'm just like, oh, you're so fun to
yeah.
watch. I don't even care. And it's, the character interactions, I mean, it's sure, maybe there's a plot hole and, how the mystery is solved, but it doesn't matter because it's surrounded by so many other good things. So I do hear you. There is something fun about. I like the whole boat ride. I thought the whole boat ride was cool and enjoyable to me. I like getting to see the husband and wife spending more time together, them addressing what happened between them. I thought that was so fun, and hearing like the "Let Him Cry," right? And he's saying, "I haven't heard that from my
Mm,
since our wedding."
mm.
Um, I know about that cry more. I mean, I've seen it in other cinema, but Xena's cry, she took that from
Oh,
that
really?
culture when she
Oh,
was doing
okay.
it. Yeah, she wanted to have some sort of scream to do, and so she heard that type of cry, and she was like, "Oh, that's perfect. That's what I want to start using." So when I was watching that episode, I was like, "Oh, Xena." Um, well, even of course she's borrowing it from that culture. But so I mean, I certainly agree. There's a lot that is just fun from a formulaic standpoint in this show. And I thought the characters continue to do very good work. The actors continue to do very good work. I thought Ethan Hawke's kind of monologue at the end, that was the other thing that I really liked,
Mm.
was the monologue at the end. Because I thought, because again, I had had some problems with earlier writing in the episode, I was thinking, oh no, he's going to reveal his whole master plan while nobody's listening or something like that. And he didn't. It was so much more about just like him and his time with Khonshu and
Yeah.
twisting the knife back on Khonshu. I love that. I thought that scene was great. So the ending hit
Yeah.
of it definitely left me feeling like, okay, cool. No, I mean Ethan Hawke to me, I was like, oh, Ethan Hawke saved the episode. Good job, Ethan Hawke. So for me, anyway. So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I think there's I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of good. A lot of like the way these characters are drawn and not ways that I'm
Mm-hmm.
expecting them to be drawn. Like I
Yeah.
kind of love
Mhm.
Khonshu and I
Yeah,
love that
yeah,
I
I feel for
dislike
some, yeah.
him and that I then
Mhm.
also feel sympathy for him and how he's kind of like an
Mhm.
outcast and you understand why he's
Right.
an outcast. I love like Ethan Hawke's doing a good job like in that and
Yeah.
the way it's written. It's written that like I you can feel like, oh, this is painful for me. You hurt me
Mm. Yeah.
specifically, and this is why I'm
Yeah.
kind of the real reason I'm doing everything is because I feel hurt
Sort
by
of, yeah.
you, like almost like a
Mhm.
son like hurt by his father or
Yeah.
something. Oh no, the cat wants to
Like the
chime in.
cat that got hurt.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is very hurt by her father right now. So like I love that and like
Mhm.
and the personalities I think they're all interesting. I like them
Yeah.
all. God, yeah, I just like everything about this show. And so like what I was
Mhm.
referring to the Incredible Hawk is like there's gonna be like a Moon Knight fight. I think like
Sure.
maybe I might try to like time it next time to see like okay this is when
Yeah,
the
when
Moon
is the
Knight
Moon Knight
fight
fight happen?
is gonna happen. Like you almost have to write it
Right.
in, and it really reminded me of like especially like the old
Mhm.
Chris Claremont X Men comics, which this
Mhm.
might have happened in earlier X-Men comics too, but I've never read them.
Mhm.
I've only read like the Chris Claremont things. But like in that early part of that run, there's always like just a fight. There like has to be a fight,
Mhm.
even in issues where you feel like he's like. There probably didn't need to be a fight here in this issue, but this is how
Right.
comics work.
This
This
is how
is
they
how
work,
like
right? You get into a
superhero
fight.
team comics work. There better be a
Yeah.
fight at some point in the thing.
Yeah.
And like that's how I felt about that kind of like
Mhm.
side setup in this, where they're like, we didn't really need it. They could have
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
by this information in some
They did
other
look at this.
way than have this like whole
Right.
separate MacGuffin thing. They could have,
Mhm.
had
Yeah.
it more just be like low key that they,
Mhm.
find this map or way to get there.
Sure.
But God damn it, we need to have this is a Moon Knight television show.
Uh,
We need to have the Moon
here's
Knight fight in it. And
this.
still the fight was funny too. That's the other thing. Like
I
everything's
enjoyed when
funny.
he came in. When he came in, for
Yeah.
sure. When Stephen Grant came in, he's like, "All right,
Yeah. And
everybody,
then he just gets
let's just have
stabbed.
a talk." He just hits cap, and he's like, "Your turn, you're back."
And I
So
also
yeah,
love
that was
thinking
fun.
about the comics Moon Knight. I
Yeah.
love how like magical and powered this version
Mhm.
of the character is. Like
Oh
which is
yeah.
so weird that that's not ever been the way it has been in the comics. I think he had
Yeah.
power like really briefly when he was on the Avengers or something. He had like the power of the
Okay.
moon or something. But like
Oh right.
it's never been like that. And yeah, this is like super fun. He can just do all these magical things
Yeah, he just
when
gets
he has that
stabbed
suit.
like a
Yeah.
pincushion, and he's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
He's getting shish
But his
kebabbed out
clothes have
there.
holes in it. I like it.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, in Country even dropped, let's see how you do without my magic
Right,
healing
right,
suit.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I was like, oh, timely. I wonder what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
But I will say something from you're mentioning comics, right, and sort of adhering to traditional norms. I'm curious on your thoughts about the fact that he just murders people. I feel like, when us watching like a
Um,
Marvel movie like the Avengers or something, right? Someone like Captain America, Thor, even so the characters are usually not killing people unless they're, maybe like super bad guys or, outer space alien villains or something.
Jeffrey, I
But in
have to
this
tell
one, he's
you
just
that
murdering
there
everybody.
are comic book
Yeah,
characters on record who kill
for sure.
many, many people. Like my
We've got
friend,
one right
you
now.
might have heard that little cat will kill some things for sure.
Right,
You might
right.
have heard of my dear good friend the Punisher, who
Just kills everybody.
does like to
Yeah.
kill people. You might have heard my good
Sure,
friend
sure.
Wolverine, who has been known
Oh, does he do
to
some other people?
eviscerate
Cool,
and kill some people. So
cool.
like
I can see that.
not
I can see that for
everybody
him.
needs to be Captain America or Batman,
Sure,
like it's
sure,
fine,
sure.
and especially in this, so yeah, I
Yeah,
dig
I
it.
just thought it was interesting because we'd seen some of it before, obviously, in the
Mm,
first episode when Stephen Grant's freaked out, right? But in this one, yeah, I mean, everybody's just get
yeah.
killed and murdered. Now, again, it does make me wonder about the third personality.
Right, right.
It seems like maybe they're doing that, but then it's definitely Mark Spector who's stabbing people with spears after he's been stabbed with them.
Right, right.
So, there is some of that. He's not
Yeah, and
going for
she's
the
like just
peaceful
shooting
solution.
people, so
I know, and then
yeah,
she
it's
just
fine.
murders people. Why did they even come back to get her? I don't even know.
Why did they
But
even
whatever.
who come back
The
again?
one guy, like isn't it the one guy comes back with a gun to fight her, and she like takes off her necklace and anything.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like one guy who had been chauffeuring the guy who owned
yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah.
around. It's like, why did I don't know? It was just
Why
anyway.
did he
It's fine.
what? Why did he come fight
I
her?
don't know why they came back to get her. I mean, the thing had exploded, and you got this dude who's all dressed in white. Like, it just seems like this, this woman looking at the remains and collecting some debris wouldn't be that big a deal. Or if it was, she could shoot him from
I
afar. It was just all very strange to me again.
I
But,
don't understand the
fine.
problem there. Did she have a gun at that point or something?
I thought
I don't.
I'm trying to remember. I mainly remember her taking her necklace off and using that
Yeah, yeah.
to fight with, which was cool. I thought that was neat. I don't know. It just
Again,
felt
a
like a
pretty
weird and
telegraphed
pointless
television-y
fight.
thing where like she's wearing this necklace.
Yeah,
I'm like, there's no way that's not going to be a weapon
yeah.
at some point a little bit
Right,
later. But again,
right.
pleasure, like that's like a thing
Yeah,
where I don't want
I'm
to be
fine with that.
surprised. I want to
No,
be
that's
like,
that's
yeah,
fine.
let's
I
do it.
agree with you completely. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things you're bringing up, but yeah, they were cool moments. I liked them. I guess the thing for me, and I wonder if other viewers have this too, which is if two or three things are happening simultaneously, and maybe one or two of them you like, but one of them you don't, how does that affect your pleasure of those other things? Because again, in a vacuum, I love like necklaces she takes off stuff. Yes,
Mm.
give me that all day. Give me jewelry weapon. Absolutely, right? Or, him getting, stabbed and how magical that is that the next is just his clothes at her, right? So
Mm.
those things are cool, but because they're happening within the scope of something else, it's tougher for me to appreciate them for individually for what they are. So I'm curious if other, viewers, not even about this show, but have noticed that happening when watching something. Obviously, it's not ideal from a
Well,
pure enjoyment
that
pleasure,
that
like
was kind
standpoint,
of
right?
my point when I was saying come over to
Mm,
my side because like I can sit there and go, okay, we got the
mm,
secondary MacGuffin that we're just kind
mm.
of, putting in here, slamming in here.
Sure.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. We could do this in another way. But
Mm.
I sit there and go, this gets me more Steven, makes Steven important, makes me like have to
I'm
have
happy
these
with Steven.
conflicts with Steven. This
Yeah.
also gives me my Moon Knight fight that I want to have. This gives me
Right.
then like the magical thing that they got to
Sure.
do later. And I also I think again, you
Mm.
do have to go, I'm going to lose some coherence when I
Mm.
make this plot go this fast. Because again, I think this show is
It is an
zooming.
accelerated plot. I will
This
agree with
this
that
thing
for
is
sure.
zooming
Mm.
compared to other
Yeah.
shows that are on. And
Yeah.
and this is
It's quick.
also like a criticism that I felt like is very often leveled at Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who. Like fucking
Mm.
nerds out there going, well, this doesn't really connect to this, and why would this have happened? And I'm
Right.
like, dude, because we just want to move, guys. We just want to go. We
Mm.
want to get to the
Right.
like stuff that we want, and like sitting there going like, oh, is this all gonna like connect? and put together like a puzzle. Like who cares? Nobody cares. We don't care.
Well, some people do.
Yeah,
Some
so
people do.
some sad little people on the internet care
I
about
was
that.
like, now who's calling out the flaps? Now who's calling out the flaps? I'm just like,
I
that's what I'm
don't
saying.
think
People
they're
watch it
beneath
for
me. I just think
reasons.
they're very very sad individuals. And so
I mean,
like and
most television
but
doesn't
I
connect, so
think there
probably is.
I think there is like a trade-off though of those things. And like sure,
Yeah.
like maybe
Yeah,
you
it's a
like
pacing
one thing
trade-off.
better than another. I would
Mm-hmm.
rather the show zoom. I think shows
Mm,
are so
mm.
slow nowadays. And that's the thing that I loved
Really?
about Stephen Moffat Doctor Who.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I think every show could probably be like 2 or 3 episodes shorter than they actually
Interesting.
were. Again,
Because it
like it
feels like we're moving
feels
to such shorter seasons, though. I mean,
yeah,
because
thank God. This
regular
one's only
television,
6. This
right?
one's
I was
only
going to say
6.
because relevant television was what, like 24 episodes normally,
Yeah.
sometimes more.
Yeah.
Um, and now we're really getting it down to, yeah, a
But
dozen, 8, 6.
But
You
those
know.
shows were a
Mm,
lot of one and done. So you had to do it
mm,
in 40 minutes. You had to do a
yeah,
whole story. It had to have beginning, middle, ends in those 40 minutes. So even though there was
yeah, way
like
more
22
episodic.
of them,
Yeah.
like each one was a story. So you couldn't
Mm.
like sit around and drag. Whereas like
Oh, I see what you're
nowadays,
saying.
when people kind of dropped that and went like, oh, we'll have the story go over the whole season, then you just have filler episodes. You just
Oh,
have
I see what you're
like
saying.
people just sitting
Yeah.
there and talking and like a lot of shows
People talking.
could
What are they
be
doing?
I mean, yeah, but I mean like talking about nonsense, not talking about anything
Sure.
interesting, kind of vamping, you
Sure.
know? And so like
Mm,
I do think there's a trade-off when you're like, look, we're just going to zoom through this. Not all these dots are going to connect it or
mm.
like it's harder because you're just moving faster and
Sure.
you know, I'm super fine with it. Your jokes are that good, your characters are that fun and
Mm,
like you know, complicated. Not complicated in like it's hard to
mm.
understand, but complicated in that my feelings are complicated about them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah. You
have
can
this
be
kind
pulled
of
in different directions.
yeah, you have
Right.
this richness to them, and then the other thing that I really want to praise is
Okay.
I liked that night sky thing
That was cool.
as
Yeah.
yeah, and but I want to talk to you because you're a big magic guy. And
Yeah.
I am not always into magic. Like magic or magic systems or stuff like that
Sure,
is
sure.
not my bag. But I think
Right.
every once in a while there's a depiction of magic that feels more
Mm,
magical. And I
yeah.
kind of want
It
to
was
like
neat.
get into like what I think that having something to do with like the sky adds like the
Hmm.
sky itself is kind of mystical. Constellations kind of have
Yeah,
just
because it's so
this
out there.
magical
Yeah.
feeling. And this felt
Mm,
like a big magical thing in a way that like with this kind of sense of awe and wonder to it. And I
hmm.
also like the staging of it and actually like pulling it to the side.
Right.
So all of that I thought was like really good and felt really magical. And like the last way I kind
Hmm.
of felt that, you might kind of laugh at me, but it's like certainly not like a Harry Potter movie, for example. Like I don't feel
Okay.
like any magic. I know they're doing magic, but it doesn't have that awe to it, right? It doesn't have that like kind of
Okay.
mysticality to it. At least not
Okay.
that I remember. I've watched all those movies, but I never felt like a moment like that I felt in this episode. Or my
Okay.
other big example is in the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Are you
There's
sure
a
you're talking about when they're on the wheelbarrow?
on the
Or
wheelbarrow.
no, the water wheel.
No, that's 2.
Go,
I also love
go.
that. But in 3, there's a part where they need to get to the kingdom
Right.
of death or something. And what
Oh,
they do
right.
is they run from one side of the boat to the other side, back and forth, or something like making the
Right.
boat like turn, turn, turn. And then finally they get it enough so that the boat flips and the camera does this flip. And when they go underwater, the upside down world is now
Right.
like the world of
Right.
death or something that they are
Right.
in.
I
And
do
I
remember that.
just like loved like the whole thing about the setup
Hmm.
of that and how it looked and how it
Mm,
just felt more magical in some way than like a wizard doing a thing, right? Like it
sure.
almost feels it felt more magical to me than anything that I remember in the Lord of the Ring movies. Like the Lord of the Ring movies, you're like, I'm just gonna call an
Uh,
eagle to help us, or I'm just gonna make this butterfly go for help, or something, or I'm just gonna I can't even remember.
what
What did
the?
he do? He didn't even like do that much.
He's mysterious, bro. He's Gandalf.
I don't even think he's that mysterious is the problem. Like if he was
Totally
more
mysterious.
mysterious, I would be
No,
more
he's
into it, you
no,
know?
it's when he's blowing the smoke rings early on. That's where the
Mm.
magic's at because he makes like a
Okay.
magic ship of the smoke, if I'm remembering
Okay.
correctly. And I'm like, wait, what did happen in those movies? I mean, I think what you're talking about though is maybe people doing something you don't expect. Like, I mean, the people who are the crew of the Pirates of the Caribbean are obviously not, magic users, but the
Mm.
fact that they're able to accomplish something magical, and also the cinematography of that one was really
Yeah.
cool. It's like the whole screen is shifting, and I feel like you're
Right.
getting that to a degree here as well, because right, the whole
Mm-hmm.
sky is shifting with how it's
Mm-hmm.
shot. What I appreciated the most is, and I think they've said this in the episodes, but now I might be conflating what I've read in the comics. But I did like the idea that Khonshu remembered the night sky, and then the fact that Khonshu says, I remember every night. So it's not just like, oh, I happen to remember this one. So I like that. And then also, it makes sense because he is the protector of night travelers. So
Yeah.
his whole thing is at night, right?
Right.
So it felt like something that made sense. And then I was thinking, is he going to draw it for Mark or Stevie? Or is he going to draw Freya a constellation or something? But then the fact that he changed the whole night sky. And I always like magic that has a cost. It's a big thing with
Mm.
magic systems. So I do appreciate that him doing this then led to, him being gone. And I assume Mark Spector not being able to summon the suit while Khonshu is in the stone, right? Oh, wait, doesn't he summon the suit after
No, he's just in like
Khonshu?
his
No,
like
no, no.
regular
He just
clothes.
right,
Yeah.
right. That's right. Because they fight and then they get the thing, then they put it together. Then Khonshu changes the sky, then he goes right.
Mm.
So exactly. So I like that cost, and it's a cost that our characters have to bear because now, assuming
Yeah, I
it's
assume
gone,
he
he
doesn't
can't
have
turn
a
into Moon
suit.
Knight.
Right.
Exactly, right? So that's really cool. So overall, I think that was done very well in terms of a magic system it would make sense for the person to have, even though we've never talked about it before. Filmed in a very cool way, and then a clear cost that's going to have ramifications later, and that also led to that really cool Ethan Hawke scene at the end.
Mm.
You know, so no, again, all that I liked
All right.
for sure.
I think you liked it. I'm giving it a thumbs up. I thought it was
I'll give it
great.
the meh.
I like the magic. I like all the characters still. I think all the humor is still
Mm,
working really well. The
yeah,
cleverness is still there of like kind of
sure.
inverting the blackouts.
I
Yeah,
definitely enjoyed
I'm
the inverted
super pleased
blackout.
with the show. I've been more happy with the show than like a show in a while, so I'm really
I
enjoying
think
it.
it's solid. Listen, I would say that I'm not going anywhere, right? Even if we weren't doing this, to me, the first two episodes were so strong. I would absolutely keep watching, and there were still things I enjoyed about this last episode. I am concerned that the next episode has the same writers on it as this one does. At least two of the three. Maybe that was another thing. The fact there were three writers on it, as opposed to the first two episodes were just one writer each. Maybe that's the voice wasn't as, and the plotting wasn't as thorough. I don't know, but I'll be interested to see how I feel about the next episode, considering getting some overlap writers. But hopefully, at least to me, it shall be a return to form. We'll find out.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We will see you for
Yeah.
that next one next week. And some comics, Jeff. You will read some comics as well,
I will
right?
read some comics.
All right.
Please
Y'all.
he's making me promise in front of it. Yes, yes.
Yes,
I'll
you've
read
all
some
heard it.
comics. I'll
You've
read
all
some
heard
comics
it. And y'all,
before
if
the
you
next
could
time.
like and subscribe down below if you're enjoying,
Yes.
helps us out. And we will see you next week.
See you in a week.